In the West, there's an idea that I can have a company that produces nothing, has a ton of patents, but produces money by suing everyone for rights to those patents. You don't even have inventors, you have lawyers making money off of buying intellectual property and trading it. That's weird, right? It's kind of weird that you produce nothing but make a lot of money. The idea that you can take an idea in a world that's this big and say exactly one person owns the right to it globally, like Apple has the right to the phone with rounded rectangles. They're the only people who can produce that. Really? Like, seriously? This is the world we're going to live in? Like, we just give people monopolies through the IP system for 20 years for stupid ideas because they were first to file. That made sense back in the day when there were fewer people, less innovators, a less connected world. Now we have like this network of people where like we're empowered to do our things and we can almost trade our creativity. And China's ecosystem is this network ecosystem of an idea for an idea. Like let's trade. Now you realize your place in the ecosystem is I need other people around me. You can't be a dick to like all the other guys around you just because you have the patent monopoly on this thing. Someday you're going to be on the bottom side of the chain and you're going to need other people's help. And so you build networks of collaborations with people by sharing in this open source philosophy.
Oh yeah, we have our first copycat. Well, that's not copycat, let's say it's a fan. The guy reverse engineered from the video you've seen, produced the plan of the of 3D models. You can download and print your own one. What we want to do is we want to print it.
All the hardware companies that come in here, of course, we encourage them to patent all of their technology. But we don't expect them to fight anybody who's copying them. We expect them to be moving much faster than anybody who's copying them and coming up with the next thing the whole time and building a brand. And then eventually those patents may get used when they get into a patent trade-off. That's the use for patents, not to stop people copying you. The way to stop people copying you is to make whatever they're copying irrelevant because you've come up with something much better.
A huge barrier, I think, to small companies in the United States is like the patent system and the copyrights and just like left and right, it's just legal challenges, and you spend a huge portion of your money on lawyers and IP filings and all that sort of stuff. It's a drag. It really is. If you want to be making stuff, you want to be actually working with people and sharing ideas openly and getting things going.
Hi, I'm Shenzhen. I like to invent things. This one is called a solar wave. You control speed by the leading. This is my latest invention. It's called hover tracks.
Yeah, the hoverboard story is a very interesting example of somebody in America who came up with the intellectual property and then spent a long time fighting manufacturers who were actually creating something which was similar. That's a great example of a case where I would have encouraged somebody not to start like fighting around IP protection. It's better just to build a brand around a really great product. Make sure that you've got, you know, the leading product in the area.
This is really the first time we have a technology product which become widely popular, which become a cultural icon, but we don't have a name for it. It just emerged. More people come in, evolve it, tweak it, evolve it, tweak it. Eventually it will get to a form which will go viral. This is kind of point to the future of how things could happen.
So in Huaqiangbei, you still find shanzhai. There are basically fakes. There are reproductions of established brands. I'll give you an example because this is a contemporary sort of shanzhai smartwatch running on an Android system. The reproductions were really the items that were sought after by people who could not afford the real thing.
My understanding is that the early shanzhai were people who worked for the bigger corporations here, like Nokia, Motorola, Foxconn, and they were some very smart engineers who got sick of the management and are like, look, I can build a phone cheaper, better, faster than these guys can. I understand why they have all this process. I can make it for half the price if we just cut the fat. And they would quit talk to their friends who they knew were all the upstream suppliers, and they would get together parts and they would build, what were effectively, copycat phones. The key innovations they're able to do at much, much lower cost. Just, learning how to walk before they could run, essentially.
The most similar things to the ideas of shanzhai in the West is the idea of Robin Hood. They try to empower the poor with the latest advancement in technology.
Shanzhai and the maker movement and the startups, they are very alike. They are very much share the same spirit. Even though they are not from big company, they feel powerful.
When they talk about people who left the factories and copied a phone, well, that was kind of like the open source stuff that wasn't open source. They just sort of like, oh, the schematics are on the desk. I will conveniently help myself to them, make a photocopy, and then leave the factory with them, right? Was that stealing or was that open source, right? In the West, it's called theft, right? Out here, it's called sharing. This one of the devices that was a haul from the market. And you can see it has a number of markings on it. This one was the higher grade version. It was 70, 80 bucks US. But when you power it on, you see that it's running a very well-skinned flavor of Android. Iconography is actually pretty good. And then the great thing is this one sports 2 SIM cards, replaceable memory card, and a replaceable battery, and it comes with 2 batteries, which is actually a feature that many local people really want to have. They're unhappy about A, having no memory card slot, and B, having not a replaceable battery.
The companies were able to access very easily the 2 basic components that you need to make a phone. One is the gumban, which is basically a printed circuit board, and the other one is the gummo, which is basically the shell. So there were companies specializing in making gumban and gummo that had slots for those printed circuit boards that were very easily accessible by companies.
People from the West who are used to sort of month-long development cycles, I'm like, how did I do this? This is amazing. Like, this capability came out of nowhere overnight, but actually it's been honed over like a decade or 2 out of those roots of people, coming out of the big factories and figuring this all out themselves.
Shanzhai is something that is still going on now, but it is a very small percentage of what is produced in the market. There is a very strong emerging middle class in China that has the purchase power to afford original items that may be more expensive than the reproductions. It is not possible to target new markets just with imitating the established brands. There is a limit to what can be achieved in that sense.
Once they kind of got in a position where they could now build a copy of a phone pretty well, they can now start innovating. They'll take like an Android phone and an iPhone and mash them together and come up with this weird thing that is pretty cool and is different in some way.
If you go in the market in Huaxianbei, you will find there are many people distributing this type of advertisements for companies that are called white brand companies. They will make it for you, assembling various different components, and then you can add your own brand, your own name, or whatever you want, and distribute it as your own item.
Yeah, these are all white label ideas. It's an empty sample, and all of these are different empty samples. So they can go ahead and build it for you on the spot and then order, I don't know, however many you want. And later on, you can actually ask them to go ahead and put your graphic on the print, for example, or maybe, these logos over here.
In the West, our kind of philosophy is, we come up with something really fantastically new that nobody's done before, become the market leader, and we're really successful. The Chinese mentality is slightly different. They look at something that's already on the market, and then they create a much better version of it much quicker. It's not copying, it's evolution of product which becomes much better than what was out there before.
We grabbed another one on the market there. Looks like a smartwatch, but you'll notice that it only has a single button, and the graphics are made for children. So this is a phone plus GPS module that you can use to sort of report a kid's location. If the kid is in trouble, they can dial their parents. You can see it has like SOS call features. I would bet that probably 80 to 90% of the design material in here is borrowed from other vendors who used these previously in other smartwatch designs. But people are sharing the IP. The guy who probably shared the IP to them was someone who could sell them chips or motherboards or circuit boards. And so there was some factory backing up that sharing process. They want people to use these things. And that lets these guys try. Like there's many models of this. In fact, when we were buying this, the woman next to us was asking for these and then left it on the table. She said, this one's too thick. Let's go find one that's thinner than this one over here. They probably have less features or less battery life or whatever it is, but the market here can build these different variants and service it because of the phenomenal ecosystem.
Something is really happening. Companies are realizing the importance of having new ideas and being different. So many companies who were involved in the shanzhai before are now looking at design. They are now looking at how to develop innovation in their own companies. The model that is being developed in Shenzhen can actually be quite threatening in other parts of the world. And it's not surprising that many American companies are now looking at models that are developed in China to see how they can adjust themselves.
梦想让世界不断改变，科技让梦想成为现实。我们创造性地提出了独特的 OPM 商业模式，通过自主的原创设计，为客户提供差异化产品的整体解决方案，打造创新、速度与价值三大核心竞争力。梦想在哪里？未来就在哪里。
那么 OPM 就是原创产品策划设计一站式的一个提供商。相对于传统的 OEM、ODM， 我们有什么优势呢？首先，我们有一个产品的产权，像这面展示台上展示的笔记本电脑、平板电脑，就是我们运用 OPM 这种商业模式打造出来的。
So those are some of the product that we make, electronic stuff. This is President Obama wearing my headphone with my business partner Mitch Richmond. This people has been here, Akon, What I Am. Got Justin's picture, my partner Venus Brown. This year is signed by Venus Brown, What I Am. I forgot who signed this. There's somebody famous, I forgot. This is my office. Hi. And that's something I can't live without is my cigar. Like, I can't do shit without my cigar. Sorry, I just cussed. We are not your traditional, like a manufacturer, right? Which is, give me a product to manufacture. We manufacture stuff like a Monster and all that. A Harman Kardon, Creative, Altec Lancy, JBL, all the biggest in the industry. We actually dominate anywhere between like 8 to 12% of the US market on the audio side. But what we're doing so different is we have our own design house. We're able to create some really cool, incredible product.
So here's like design house, some inspiration about what we can do. We have like some instruments, 3D printing, rapid prototyping. This team is designing some characters in 3D. This is a game. It's interactive learning. In China, a lot of factories are very traditional. So this is also very a new model. The CEO, he tried to break this model, and since 2005, they are producing now for 45 brands, mostly international, and mostly in US.
通过这个时光隧道呢，我们就来到了未来2030年的一个智慧之家。首先，我们看到的是未来的一个智慧冰箱，并且可以看到冰箱里内容物的一个营养价值、产地、生产日期，保障食物的安全。同时呢，当冰箱里食材储存不足的情况下呢，我们直接可以通过下单购买这么一个形式。
Most people don't realize it. There's at least 26% of the technology from Silicon Valley actually come from Shenzhen. So what they do is they hire kind of like a headhunter, so to speak, because there's so much innovation. We are about minimum of 8 months to a year advanced when it comes to technology. For example, we have this incredible bed. You can sleep on there. And the moment you wake up in the morning, it'll give you stats how many times you roll over, how much sleep, how much rest you have. And then also can read your blood pressure, can kind of tell you if you have any problem need to be identified. And this is technology existing already today, and we've done this almost 2 years ago.
那么我们的未来洗漱镜，它会根据人脸识别技术，识别出我们喜欢哪一类的新闻，并且它还会给我们进行一个个人日程的提醒，以及一个温度的提醒，提醒我们每天应该怎么样穿衣服。
We say like 25% of innovation created in Shenzhen are by the American. They buy it, they go to US, and then they sell it here 100 times more expensive. China feel a little bit bored, I think, about this business model. We made it here, but all the credit is for somebody else.
叮咚叮咚，深圳天气。
深圳今天白天到夜间阵雨，温度28摄氏度至23摄氏度。
叮咚叮咚，
风向。
暂停播放。
已暂停。
His name is 叮咚。
Everybody is looking for the Chinese startup, made in China. We want the proof to show to the world, like, look, we innovate.
We have a lot of opportunity here. I think our focus should be, let's create a quality product. And you can be proud and say this is made in China. So if you can just focus on that new technology, to focus on a branding and to focus on the quality, and I think within the next 5 years, people have different perspective of made in China. I think that will happen.
The reason why the city has embraced this notion of new technology is trying to reinvent itself. My concern is that in this reinvention, it wants to very quickly rid of its past.
You definitely see like a gentrification happening, and I can't say if it's for better or for worse.
就是工程师的研发的能量和深圳山寨供应链的能量带到全世界。
We're going to create this innovation and this, the startup world that had never been seen before.